Hello friends, welcome to Squaird Plans, where creative planning and organization comes to life. I'm Stephanie, and today we're going to be doing a little DIY planner refresh for summer in my classic Happy Planner. I'll show you how to make a laminated cover using free printables, along with some new seasonal dashboards and a fun pocket pages project. So let's get to it. And I have this page protector pocket that I may use, as well as some blank cardstock that I can run through my printer. I also have some sheets of clear vellum paper that also can be run through my printer, a package of 5mm thermal laminating pouches, a nice summer-themed cardstock pack, this corner rounding punch, this power disc punch, some various washies, along with some sticker books for some added decor, and finally this thermal laminator. We're going to get started with the cover setup. So here I have a vellum front and back cover, as well as a dashboard for the front and the back of the cover, which I printed on the cardstock patterned paper that I had from that paper pack. That just made it a little bit easier for me design-wise, so I didn't have to design both an outside and an inside cover. So both the vellum sheets that you're seeing there, as well as the front and back cover, will be down below in the description as a printable link. Do check that out if you want to go ahead and DIY your own summer cover. So the first step I'm doing here is actually cutting down the page to size. I designed my covers a little bit oversized so that they cover any dividers or tabs that you may have outside of your normal page size. So the final page size for my cover is 7.5 inches by 9 3/4 inches. The easiest way I found to do this is to cut the vellum and the cover together, because my printer doesn't really print the vellum perfectly straight. That tends to be the one that gets a little bit wonky. So I just used a smidge of Tombow glue adhesive on the very top edge of where I know it's going to be cut off, and use that to hold the vellum in place as I cut it down. And that little hack worked really well, so I will definitely be doing that again. But I do like to cut the covers together when I'm doing a vellum overlaid cover with a dashboard. It just makes sure that the alignment is where I want it to be before I actually cut it, and makes things a little bit easier in the end, especially here where I have a quote that's laying over a specific area of the dashboard behind it. I wanted to make sure that that was in the right place once I went through this process. So I'm just placing those vellum sheets inside a single 5mm pocket and running it through my laminator on the 5mm heat setting. This next step is me cutting down that vellum laminated sheet almost to the very edge of the page to re-laminate in a second pocket. Now the reason I'm doing this is because I felt that the 5mm with the vellum insert really wasn't a heavy enough weight to handle the rigidity that I'd like for my cover. I tried this on my last cover for spring, and I really liked how much added rigidity it gave the cover once I did that, without really giving it any transparency issues. So I'm going to go ahead and do that again here. That first step was to laminate it once, cut it down almost to the edge of the sheet, and then to re-laminate it here again. And this one went through pretty smoothly, although there is a little bit of an air gap I noticed when I was looking to cut it down. We'll go ahead and cut it, but I may run it through the laminator one more time. Use a blunt tool here to try to seal up those edges while it's still a little bit warm. And now cutting it down for final use, so I am leaving a bit of space on the edges not cutting too close to that little gap of air that you will see on the edge of the lamination, just cutting where it's fully sealed. And then, like I said, I'm going to try to run this through my laminator again, but then I made the mistake of trying to back it out once I thought that the air gap was covered by the heat, and I made like a hot mark there on the laminator. So don't do that. Just let it run through. I may end up redoing it because you can see the line that it created almost melting a bit of the lamination, I think, at that point when it was stuck in the machine. I swear, you guys, I always want to do this so nice for you guys, and there's always some kind of little hiccup as I go. But yeah, so maybe running it through a second time was not the best idea. Like I said, I may end up redoing this cover if it bothers me enough. But for now, we'll just proceed with it as if it's perfect. And I'm going to go ahead and get started on the punching. So this cover now is double laminated, and I'm going to use my We Are Memory Keepers disc power punch to punch the holes. I start from making a center mark there on the cover. So I just measure the width, which is 9 3/4 inch, and then find the center mark and go outwards from the center. That's the easiest way I found to make sure that the holes are evenly spaced, top and bottom. Every time I do it, it works out perfectly. So I highly recommend that procedure. Also too, I went ahead and rounded the corners with just a slight rounding using my corner rounding punch, and that was basically all I needed to do for that laminated cover. So we're going to go ahead and proceed and punch the holes for the dashboards now that will go behind those laminated covers. Again, I'm going to use my disc power punch because my happy planner punch, as you'll see later in this video, has been super finicky. I mean, it's really giving me trouble lately, so I just decided to use the disc power punch since the pages are pretty thick, and I use that same technique of going from the center outwards to punch the individual holes. That worked out pretty good. I also went ahead and rounded the corners just so that it would be a little bit nicer aesthetically in my planner. Last season, I didn't do that step. I did notice that the corners were getting a little bit more roughed up than usual because it is just regular cardstock and not a laminated piece. So I thought that maybe rounding the corners will help solve that problem. And we're going to go ahead and repeat that same step I did on the front cover to the back. Starting from the center again with that disc power punch, working outward from there. Now my disc power punch is in a dire need of sharpening. It's definitely hanging up a lot when I punch the holes and leaving a little bit of excess each time. So I'm just going to go back with my scissors and trim off those hanging on pieces, just cleaning out the rest of the holes. That's pretty much it for the cover. Let's go ahead and pop this in and just see how it turned out. And aside from that melted line there on the front cover, I think everything worked pretty well. We'll go ahead and pop in the back cover. I really do like the rigidity of that double lamination with the 5mm, so again, I recommend that if you want a nice sturdy cover. And it all looks good. So let's move on to the next step, which will be to create the dashboards. And for the dashboards, I already have many of the items pre-printed. I used some basic cardstock as well as this cardstock paper pad. These two actually came directly out of the paper pack here. So you can see here's the first, and then I also used this design as well for a second dashboard. And then I went ahead and created two others on my computer using free pictures, and I used some hazy saturation filters on top of to mimic the same styling that I got from that scrapbook paper pack. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut these down to size. For the dashboards, I'm using a standard classic Happy Planner size, which is a 7 inches by 9¼ inches. I also found this set of 5 summer quote printables for free online that I will link as well down below in case you want to grab them as well. They were hand lettered by the artist, which I thought was really nice. It gave them a nice uniform look. So instead of trying to create my own, I just decided to go with those. I used them in conjunction with the images that I grabbed, not only from the paper pack, but also that I created on my own, to position them on the sheet how I thought that they would best look with those dashboards. So each one is already kind of preset for where I think they will go on the individual dashboards. And now we're going to try to hole punch them. So like I said, I have this Happy Planner punch that is very temperamental. I'm thinking that this is going to be light enough weight to handle these two together. I did recently have a DIY fail with some heavier plastic and I couldn't get it out, so I got really scared here when I tried to punch this guy and it was not coming out. But I was able to punch through the page finally in the end once I put enough pressure there and get it cleared. So we're going to keep going. We're going to try to do this because I just didn't want to have to do these by hand individually with the power punch. Thankfully, this all ended up going okay. I had no snags in the end. And this just tended to be the best method I found to make sure that everything lined up nicely. The vellums tend to get a little bit off or askew when I cut them on my guillotine cutter, so this just kind of allows me to give it the best alignment that I can before I actually punch it so that it will lay properly in my planner. And that's basically all that I did. So I did alter those quotes a little bit to place them in the space that I wanted them to be in with the dashboards. But other than that, they are basically exactly as they came. I really like how this turned out with the vellum. I'm going to go ahead and drop these directly into my planner, just laying them over the dashboards that are currently there since I have some sensitive information behind them. We'll go through and I'll show you how they turned out here once I finally get them all situated here within my dividers. This is how they came out. Really love this look. So next, let's move on to the pocket pages part of this project. This one I did some prep here with a little bit of vellum using those same quotes, just shrunk down to size. I also thought that these might have been a cool way to cut down and use in my pocket pages, but the sizing of those little Polaroid images wasn't quite right. So I decided to pull out this other sheet that I had from this cardstock pack, and it also too wasn't quite the right size. I had a few that were just under 2 inches, like about 1 7/8 inch size by 2 inches. And then I had some that were even smaller, but I didn't have anything that was a full 2 by 2 inch square, which is what you need for those pocket protectors. So we're going to figure out something here. I've got a lot of extra scraps from that cardstock that I used up on the other parts of the project. And then I'm going to pull in a few of these pattern pages too that I really thought would be a nice addition to this project area. So just trying to figure out how to cut this down, make sure that I was getting the full 2 inches and not more than that. With the hole at the top, the actual page size is a little bit larger than just a standard 12-inch sheet. I think it's 12.5 on one side. So I needed to make sure that I was getting the right measurement there before I cut. And now I'm going through and cutting down that 2-inch section that I just cut from those pages into full 2-inch squares. So I'm going to use those 3 pattern papers and try to set up a little grid here for that pocket pages, how that might look. Now, I tend to not take a lot of photos when I go out and do fun things. So for me, I'm going to create this pocket pages as more of just kind of like a summer fun visual. But if you are somebody who, does a lot of family things, maybe you have small kids or even regular size kids and want to add photos, this would be a really cute place to put it. I just did a DIY video for anybody who doesn't have this Happy Planner pocket pages insert already in your stash, because they don't make them anymore, but really want to do this project. I do have a video I just posted earlier in the week showing you how to create one out of laminated pockets. So this is an accessible project for anybody. If you just want to put a little bit of elbow grease into DIYing it, there is a way. Just check out that video if you haven't already and want to create one of your own. So as you can see, I've already laid in a few items that I think will work here. I had a few of those photo squares that I mentioned earlier cut down to size that I can add in here. I also have the vellum sheets that I created in 2-inch squares with those same quotes from the dividers. So I have those. I also am going into my sticker books, as you can see, and adding in a few little items here and there for just a touch of something to this area. And now I'm playing around with some washi here, layering it with this vellum sheet, and just making some combinations of items as I go. I pre-pulled a few stickers that I thought I might use from the Floral Memory sticker book, and I think the Teacher Seasonal sticker book there on the top. So we'll add those in if I can find a good place for it. And then here from this color story book, I have this quote that I cut in half, and I'm using it coming in from the edges just for, again, some added vibes. Now I'm gluing those photo elements that I got from the cardstock kind of in the center of the squares, since I said they weren't quite the right size to fill a full 2-inch square. So those ones I think are 1 3/4 inches wide maybe, or maybe even 1.5. I don't remember exactly. And just cut those down so that I could use them as almost like a photo within a frame on the white blank side of these cardstock pattern pieces. Playing around with the layering of the different quotes and using some washi here and there to add a little bit of interest. I will say that although this project was fun, this was near the end of the whole refresh, and I also had somewhere to be. So I would have done a little bit more with this part of the project, but I ended up kind of burning out. But I think there could be so much more fun. So I may revisit this on another day and add a bit more to this area. But like I said, this is a really great place to put in family photos and just add a little something extra and just kind of keep it as a memory keeping item as well as a decor item in your planner. So I had made an extra vellum sheet here with the quote. I think this was the 5th quote of the set from that free printable I found. And this one I shrunk down to fit within the 4 squares on the back so that it would be fairly easy to read since I am cutting it down. And what I decided to do here on the back was to keep things fairly simple. I'm going to actually put in those vellum squares within each of the ones here on the back. And also I'll add in a little bit more decor here later down the road, but I really wanted the majority of the fun and the decor to be on the front. But again, this is some place where you could also to add in a little bit more flair, or maybe just make that the photo side versus the non-photo side, or whatever you want to do. Now, like I said, I decided to add in a few of the photos here on the white-sided cardstock. Since I had them pre-cut, we'll just kind of lay them out and figure out what looks good. It is a little bit tricky. I place things inside of the squares, but then I need to pull them out each time and set them up and then reset them in the page protector. And I didn't bother gluing down the vellum sheets. I thought that those ones were fine, kind of free floating. I only glued down with Tombow Glue Runner the layered cardstock elements. That was so they didn't shift around too much, and I could really place it within the frame, if you will, of the card, making sure everything looked even on all sides. And you can see how that quote really fit pretty well within the 4 squares there. Just added a little something extra, reiterating those quotes that I used earlier and here again on the pocket protector. So I'm just playing around with color here, just trying to add a little bit of yellow, pink, and kind of blue tones on each row, and also trying not to group together too much of the same color in one area, mixing things up as I can. Trying some other things too with the other pre-cut squares. I think I like this variation of patterned paper and then kind of framed image alternating all the way throughout. And now I'm going to go back through these sticker books, look for some added decor to spice up maybe some of these patterned areas. I really like how the top has turned out, so let's see what we can come up with here for these other sections. Just going through my sticker books. I have a color story here from the Happy Planner. Another color story as well. Just looking for some fun. The washi tape is nice, adds a little bit of color and pattern. Just trying some different things as we go here. I really thought I was going to use more of those black quotes that you see there on the sticker sheet from the Floral Memories book, but I ended up kind of liking the softer tones a little bit better than the black and gold. So we'll see what we end up with here, but I think that I'll probably just stick with the softer colors, mainly because I really felt like the vellum quotes really softened things up a bit, and then the black was just going to be a lot harsher and maybe steal a lot of the attention away from the other elements. Pretty much the same here with anything that was a little too bold, like this pink square. I ended up going away from anything that was too strong of a color, focusing more on the softer tones that matched well with what was already there on the sheet. And like I said, I kind of had my mind starting to go elsewhere, so I didn't spend as much time in this area as I would have liked. But it would be really fun to really dive deep into these pockets and add lots of little embellishments, decor, textures, washies, and just make this super fun feast for the eyes as far as decor. And I think we're winding down here, just looking to see if there's anything else that I want to add in. I wasn't liking that I had just that gold quote there on the wave image, so went ahead and put that back. I also decided that I wasn't going to use those black quotes, so I ended up putting all of those back as well. again in the Floral Memories sticker book. And just seeing if there's anything else in here that I might use. Thought maybe I could use this circle, but changed my mind there. And did a few sticker switches. Decided to use this pink circle sticker here instead on this pink cardstock backer. And there's something I'm not really liking about this, so let's go ahead and move it around. That looks better. Maybe I'll add in a little layer here of this wave sticker. Playing around with a somewhat limited color palette, I'm really sticking with the pink, blue, teal tone and the yellow tone. Those are the main colors I've been pulling in. And that's really helping things feel less chaotic. I'm just adding a few of these smaller items in where I can. I did fight with this watermelon for a minute on this sticker. I really wanted to add in more than one, but I was having a tough time getting a good balance with these stickers and the quote. But I thought it worked really well with the quote that said little details, you know, because of the seeds of the watermelon. So I tried. I really did try on that one. Thought maybe I could add in some washi tape. And thought, well, maybe I'll bring in the teal green tone, which I thought was a little bit too bright before, but I think will work okay with this guy because of the watermelon edge. So we'll reset this, maybe put it behind, add in the watermelon somewhere. Just try to design a little moment. I'm going to try to add in at least one more piece of watermelon. Don't know where yet though. I went ahead and cut it down thinking it would be a little bit easier to place, but it really wasn't. So we'll just drop it here at the top and call it good. And like I said, I think we're winding down here. It's running out of time to really play around, so we're going to call it. But I may add more to this project later. Here is the final flip through of the full DIY summer refresh. I've got the vellum cover and the behind dashboard printed on the cardstock pattern paper, along with this pocket pages here that I created using mainly just cardstock and some vellum printed pages, a little bit of washi and some stickers. Then we have the dashboards with the vellum overlay from that free printable I found, and cardstock here on the first one. And this one here I created. This one as well from the cardstock. Finally, this last one, which I created using some free photos and printed on my printer. We also have the back page cover printed on that pattern cardstock and the final vellum laminated cover. So that's going to do it, friends. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up down below. Also, too, go ahead and leave me a comment if you'd like to get in touch, and think about subscribing to my channel if you haven't already, if you'd like to see more of my videos. Thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and we'll see you next time. Bye!